was 24. I thought I had everything figured out. I just landed my first real job in a mid-sized marketing firm, rented a small studio apartment in a bustling city, and believed that adulthood was just a checklist I was finally checking off. But then life did what it does best. It reminded me that it doesn't follow plans. It started with a phone call on a rainy Tuesday afternoon. My grandmother had passed away. She was 84, lived alone in a quiet town by a lake, and had been widowed for nearly 2 decades. We weren't particularly close. I visited during holidays, sent birthday cards, and called when prompted by my mom. She was quiet, not cold, but reserved in a way that made it hard to know what she was thinking. For the funeral, my mom told me that my grandmother had left me her small lakeside cottage. She wanted you to have it, she said. Said you reminded her of your grandfather. I laughed nervously. We barely talked. She talked about you a lot, actually, my mom said quietly. Curiosity got the better of me, and a week later I drove out to the cottage. It was a charming little place, weathered wood siding, blue shutters. Rocking chair that creaked in the breeze. It smelled like cedar and memories. I planned to stay 1 weekend. That weekend turned into 2 months. There was something about that place, about the stillness, the sound of the lake in the early morning, the way the fog rolled in like a secret. I started working remotely, waking up before sunrise just to sit on the bench by the water and drink my coffee. And then I found the journal. It was tucked away in a drawer in the guest bedroom. My grandmother's handwriting, elegant and slightly slanted, filled the pages. It wasn't a diary, not exactly. It was letters to my grandfather. After he died, she wrote to him almost every week for 20 years. She told him about the tomatoes that wouldn't grow, about the young couple that moved in next door, about how lonely the winters were, how she wished he could still laugh at her silly dreams. And sometimes she mentioned me. He would have liked her, she wrote once. She has that same stubborn kindness. I sat on that bench by the lake and cried like I hadn't in years. For her, for him, for all the things I never knew. And in that quiet grief, I realized something. This life isn't about checking boxes. It's about connection, real, messy, complicated connection. It's about loving people in quiet ways. It's about handwritten letters no one ever reads, and benches where time slows down just enough for us to feel human again. I never moved back to the city. The cottage is still mine. I've repainted the shutters, planted flowers, replaced the creaky rocking chair, but I kept the bench. Every morning I sit there with my coffee, watching the water ripple with the wind and memory. And sometimes I write letters too.